As I'm sure you've figured out by now, today we're celebrating the feast day of St. Francis, our patron saint, whose actual feast day was a couple days ago on Friday, but because he's our parish patron, we're able to celebrate him today. And as we celebrate our patron, as we celebrate our parish, this community, this family that has been formed by the Lord for each of us, we've been reflecting since last week on this idea, this reality of stewardship, of using the things that the Lord has given us well, spending our time, investing our talents and our treasure for the building up of ourselves as saints, for the building up of this parish community, for the building up of the world, the body of Christ in the church. Last week, Deacon John reflected in his homily about the need to be good stewards of our time, to spend our time well, first and foremost, to grow in relationship with the Lord through prayer and things like Eucharistic adoration. And then after that, spending our time well to build up our families, our domestic churches, spending time growing in love for one another in the family, and then also growing in fellowship and relationship and communion with one another. Today we reflect upon the way in which the Lord is calling us to be good stewards of our talents. Another way that I think we should understand this particular call is that every single one of us is called in some way to serve first and foremost the Lord, and then also to serve our brothers and sisters, one another, here in this parish community. I'm reminded of this very well-known event in the life of St. Francis as he was one day praying in the church of San Damiano in Assisi in front of that famous image of the crucifixion that I'm sure all of us are familiar with. And he heard the voice of the Lord. He heard the Lord calling him. And the Lord said to him, "Francis, rebuild my church which has fallen into ruin." Francis understood this to mean that he was literally to rebuild this little church in Assisi. And so he went and he invested his time, he invested his money, he invested himself, right, in rebuilding and fixing, repairing this church that had fallen into ruin. And he did such a good job, you can actually still go and pray in that church. That church, that particular church that he rebuilt, is actually now inside of another larger church that you can go and pray in. After he did this, after he rebuilt this church and spent all of that time and that energy and that time serving the Lord by building that church, he was again in that same church of San Damiano, in front of that same crucifix, that same image of the crucifixion. And again, he heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Francis, rebuild my church, which has fallen into ruin." Of course, St. Francis, understood now that beyond just rebuilding that physical church building, that the Lord was calling him to lead a great reform of the church, the body of Christ, the Catholic Church, right, the wider church community of the faithful. And so Francis got together with some of his companions, got together with some friends and other men and women who had undergone a very similar conversion as him. And they led this great reform of the church. They together formed this group of people that would over time develop into what we know today as the Franciscans. And throughout these centuries, these last 800 years or so since St. Francis founded the Franciscans, they have been leaders in the church and bringing about great reform and helping people to grow in their knowledge of the Lord, helping people to grow in their understanding of his love for them, helping people to grow in their conformity of their own lives to the cross of Christ. None of that would have been possible without, first of all, St. Francis being in prayer, and then, in his prayer, recognizing a need and generously saying yes to entering into that need and bringing some kind of fulfillment. "99 years ago, our parish was founded in 1925. And in that 99 years, there have been thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who have walked through these doors, who have come here to worship, to pray, to grow in their love of God, to grow in their relationship with those around them. Many of those people still have children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren or perhaps even great-great-grandchildren who are still here, who are still part of our parish, who are still coming here to worship and to pray and to grow in love for the Lord. And none of this would exist, none of these buildings, none of this community, none of us would be here today if countless men and women in this parish had not done the same thing that St. Francis so famously did. If they had not, in prayer, recognized that the Lord was calling them to give of themselves to the church, to give of themselves in service to their brothers and sisters, and generously said yes. And if our parish is going to continue to grow and to flourish and to continue bringing the gospel to people for the next 99 or 499 or 999 years, we need, all of us, need to recognize the call of the Lord to serve him and to serve our brothers and sisters, to serve one another, to help each other grow in love for the Lord in many different ways. And this can look like all kinds of things, right? Perhaps for some it's helping with one of the various liturgical ministries, altar serving, singing, being an usher, a lector, whatever it might be. For others, it might look like helping with faith formation, with catechesis, or starting a Bible study, or joining a Bible study, helping to teach people, right? Helping others to grow in their faith. For some, it might just look as simple as finding a ladder and a level and making sure that the Stations of the Cross are not quite as crooked as they are right now. There are many different things, right, that we need here at this parish so that we can grow together as a community and we can grow together in our relationships with the Lord. And what I want to do is invite and challenge you over this next week, perhaps even this afternoon as you're at Oktoberfest, to look around, to look at the building, to look at the grounds, to look at your fellow parishioners, your brothers and sisters here with you right now, and ask the Lord to show you what it is that this parish needs, that he wants you to do. Ask him what it is that's missing from this parish that you can provide by serving others. And be open to hearing what the Lord has to tell you. Because it's only by being open to what the Lord is calling us to do, to serve our brothers and sisters, that we can truly build up the body of Christ the way that he desires it. It's only by giving of ourselves as John Paul II reminds us, that we find ourselves. It's only in a sincere gift of ourselves that we truly know who we are and can live as who we are. Last week, you got a letter from me in the mail. You've actually gotten several letters from me about stewardship. And in one of those letters, I was speaking about stewardship of talent, and in that letter was a card, a commitment card that you can fill out. You can put your information on it. There are some check boxes for different ministries that are looking always for more volunteers, and you can check any of those boxes, or there's even a space where you can just write in, here's what I want to do for my parish. I want to invite you to pray with that this week, to ask the Lord what it is that he's asking you to do to serve your brothers and sisters in this parish, and to fill that card out, to bring it to Mass next week. And at Mass next week, we'll collect those cards so that all of us can make a commitment to the Lord and to one another to be good stewards of our talents, to serve our brothers and sisters in whatever way we're being called, so that together we can pour ourselves out into this parish, into this community, into this place, and we can always walk together more and more faithfully towards our heavenly kingdom.